What is the biggest human catastrophe? For some, it may be the death of millions. For others, systemic issues like extreme poverty. But for the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, it was the demise of the Soviet Union. Though he has denied many times that he has any ambition to restore the lost empire, evidence and events in the past few years state otherwise. In particular, the unprovoked invasion of Ukraine, the conflict that started in 2022, took the whole world by surprise. His decision directly challenged the post-Cold War European security order. It was expected that Russia would easily overtake Ukraine, but the latter brought Russia's ill-planned and badly executed campaign to a standstill. Yet, despite the setbacks, NATO's involvement, and death of hundreds of thousands, Russia remains undeterred in its ambition to defeat Ukraine. One thing is certain: Putin is willing to risk it all to take what he sees as the rightful part of his empire. Most probably, Ukraine might be the first step towards Putin's dream of rebuilding his country as a global superpower. In this video, let's tap into the psyche of the world's most feared dictator and unveil the logic behind his greed for lost glory. For a long time now, continuity with the Soviet era and even earlier periods of Russian history has been a hallmark of the Kremlin's current foreign policy. It all started with the Primakov Doctrine in 1996, which proclaimed that Russia would no longer follow Western power. Rather, it would become a power center itself. In the words of Sergei Lavrov, Russia left the path our Western partners had tried to make it follow after the breakup of the Soviet Union and embarked on a track of its own. Several events reinforce Russia's ambition to challenge the West-led world order: the annexation of Crimea, the Ukraine war, deployments in the Middle East and Africa, tense military standoff with the West in the Baltic and Black Seas, espionage activities in the US and Europe, and support for the likes of Iran, North Korea, and Hamas. However, perhaps the biggest effort being made by Putin in a bid to bring back the empire seems to not be on the military front, but rather through the strategic use of propaganda and diplomatic posturing. He is keen on convincing ordinary Russians and the wider world that Russia's resurgence as a superpower is both necessary and achievable. In 2012, Putin signed a presidential order reconstituting the Russian Military History Society. The aim was to project Russian victories over Poland, Sweden, the Ottoman Empire, and Central Asia as a foundational narrative of the present-day Russian state. This propaganda is spread through a vast state apparatus that involves media, education curriculum, and government activities. Documents obtained in February by Delphi, an Estonian news website, reveal the workings of a £1 billion effort to promote Russian nationalism on the home front. The document also claims to promote the unity of the country by offering a sense of national belonging to residents of the new territories. In 2023, Putin issued the Concept of the Foreign Policy of the Russian Federation. The 9,000-word document contains many statements that indicate Russia's designs in the international sphere. The document states that Russia brings together the Russian people and other peoples belonging to the cultural and civilizational community of the Russian world. It also says that Russia's top priority is the establishment of an equitable and sustainable world order. Over the years, several Russian public and secret documents have revealed its designs to become a power center by extending economic, military, and diplomatic influence in its immediate neighborhood and other regions. An investigation conducted by the LRT team in 2023 found secret Russian documents prepared for the president's office, which laid out its plans to influence Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia. Several events that happened in the Baltics point towards Russian involvement. Apparently, the actions were taken by pro-Russian individuals or organizations, but they definitely match with the method laid out by the documents found by LRT. In Lithuania, Algirdas Paleckis, a former politician, has been sentenced for spying for Moscow. In 2021, his supporters held a rally in which several eminent pro-Russian personalities participated. There have also been campaigns to stop the demolition of Soviet monuments in Baltic states. However, the main focus of the strategy paper is countering NATO in the Balkans. It shows grave concern for NATO's plan to have a permanent base there and militarize the region. Not just in the immediate neighborhood, Russia has been trying to extend its influence in the Middle East and Africa. A leaked U.S. intel document posted on the gaming platform Discord, of all places, uncovered secret dealings between Egypt and Russia, in which Egypt planned to transport 40,000 rockets to Russian forces. Making secret deals with close U.S. allies shows the extent to which Russia is taking action against U.S. interests in the region. In 2023, the Associated Press found a document titled Russia-UAE Intelligence Relationship Deepening, allegedly authored by U.S. intel agencies. The document says FSB officials claimed UAE Security Service officials and Russia had agreed to work together against U.S. and U.K. intelligence agencies, according to newly acquired signals intelligence. U.S. intelligence officials in recent years have pointed to possible links between the UAE and the Wagner Group, a Russian paramilitary group closely associated with the Kremlin and active in Ukraine and several African countries. In pursuance of an equitable global world order, Russia has often looked toward Eurasia to balance out the West's influence. Its influence with China is unique, as the two great powers sharing borders are allies on many global fronts, especially against their mutual rival, the United States. U.S. intelligence agencies in their 2024 Annual Threat Assessment Report laments that an ambitious but anxious China, a confrontational Russia, some regional powers such as Iran, and more capable non-state actors are challenging long-standing rules of the international system as well as U.S. primacy within it. The report also claims that China is giving economic and security assistance to Russia in its war against Ukraine. The CIA Director William Burns told the Senate Intelligence Committee that U.S. intelligence assessed that Vladimir Putin was not serious about negotiating an end to the conflict. All of this points towards greater Russian ambitions in the region and beyond. Russia and China also signed a detailed 5,000-word agreement in 2022, in which both proclaimed that friendship between two states knows no bounds. There are no hidden areas of cooperation. The joint declaration provided Russia with a diplomatic boon at a time when it felt extremely isolated. Just for information, China did not back Russia's war in Georgia in 2008, Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014, or Ukraine's invasion in 2022. However, both stand together to prevent further enlargement of NATO or the formation of any other regional security alliance. But China alone isn't a focus of Russia's strategic diplomacy to once again find its place in the sun. Russia's entry into the Indian Ocean is another indication of this aim to reclaim the lost legacy of the USSR and become an equal power to the US. Moscow's recent drills with Myanmar, warship port calls in Bangladesh, and plans for a base in Sudan all indicate that Russia is trying to extend its sphere of influence. In what was a pivotal movement, Russia docked its warships for the first time in 50 years in Bangladesh in 2023. The Russian embassy in Dhaka called it a huge milestone for Russia-Bangladesh relations. Russia also conducted 2-day naval drills with India in the Bay of Bengal last week to strengthen naval cooperation. In November 2023, Russia termed the naval drills held with Myanmar in the Andaman Sea the first Russian-Myanmar naval exercise. Moreover, though Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, it started seeking alliances and support long before that. An overwhelming majority of states condemned the Russian invasion of Ukraine in the United Nations General Assembly, but around 35 states abstained. This included major states like China, India, South Africa, Pakistan, and Indonesia. Ben Bland, Chatham House Asia Pacific Program Director, speaking on the situation, said, Although they might find Russia an increasingly awkward partner, most Asian nations pragmatically choose to maintain their relationships for a combination of economic, military, and diplomatic reasons. Given Russia's foreign policy choices in recent years, many Western leaders have raised concerns and caution that no one would be spared from Russian designs. French President Emmanuel Macron said in February that NATO member states might face an attack from Russia in the next few years. Many proclaim that any such move by Russia would be tantamount to military suicide, but they fail to recognize the true motive behind Russia's invasion and its imperial ambitions. Remember, when Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022, it termed it as a defensive action against Nazis and NATO. However, further developments have cast light on the real intentions behind the war. Putin has famously compared his offensive with those of Peter the Great. When he annexed 4 Ukrainian provinces, he termed them as Russian lands. If the elimination of Nazis was the real objective, it begs the question of why Putin ordered to remove all traces of Ukrainian national identity and proclaimed that Ukraine never existed. Vladimir Putin's interview with Tucker Carlson was also full of indications of his global ambitions. The president gave a lengthy lesson on Russian history and how his foreign policy actions take inspiration from it. He did not cite geopolitical and strategic compulsion behind Ukraine's invasion. Rather, he painted it as an attempt to reclaim lost Russian land. He also commented in December 2021 that what had been built up over 1,000 years was largely lost. This means that Putin might use this logic to invade or attack any country that previously belonged to a greater Russia. Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Belarus, Poland, Moldova, Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and the whole of Central Asia can all be probable targets. Those who find this probability a pipe dream must remember that nobody would have expected Russia to attack Ukraine in the 21st century. Probably this is the reason Finland and Sweden, 2 countries that until now have shunned NATO membership, are also set to join the alliance in a historic shift. And speaking of historic shifts, it used to be that the US and Russia collaborated on nuclear arms control, and the threat of nuclear war was perceived as less imminent and forgotten. But now both Russia and the US have indicated the possibility of nuclear escalation in veiled statements in recent years. US President Joe Biden declared the risk of nuclear Armageddon to be at its highest level for 60 years. Putin also put nuclear forces on high alert at the start of the Ukraine war. Russia has also been reckless when targeting sites in Ukraine, such as the shelling and attacks around the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. All these make for an alarming development. Nobody wins if things ever do go nuclear. Considering Russia's invasion of Ukraine as a one-off event would be living in a fool's paradise. It is quite evident that Russian revisionist policy was years in the making and will continue on the same path. Russia is employing social, economic, military, and political tools to advance the country's national interest. The war on Ukraine has now become a survival test for the current Russian regime because a defeat at the hands of Ukraine would push Russia several decades back. So there is no backing off for Russia from the course it has taken. The world, especially US-led NATO countries and its allies, should better accept the new reality and regroup themselves accordingly. So far, they have failed to contain Russia as economic sanctions and military assistance to Ukraine have hardly affected Russian resolve. In your opinion, who will emerge victorious in the growing conflict between Russia and the West? Is the US still the sole superpower, or has the likes of Russia and China been successful in carving a multipolar world order? Tell us in the comments below.